Welcome back to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton. I'm Connor Williams, and we're back with another one of our 24/7 news report videos. As always, we start with the headline news, and the headline news this evening is that Samuel Chukwueze is very close to joining Everton. The 23-year-old would join on loan for the season with a mandatory purchase next summer of €45 million. This has come from Mundo Deportivo. In Spain, nearly France, in Spain. We then had more news break on Chukwueze transfer. We have that Everton have approached Villarreal for the winger on a loan deal with an obligation to buy next summer. That came by the Daily Mail. And then the Daily Mail went on to add that the fee would be obligated to pay Villarreal. Everton would pay between 34.3 million to 42.9 million. So it looks like we are linked with him, with the winger. And looks to be for a big price. Obviously, the loan with the mandatory is just Everton saying, for whatever reason, maybe it's FFP, maybe it's no funds at the minute, maybe it's something else, saying, listen, we don't have them. I think it's just a way to get around it financially, doing this obligation to buy. We'll just pay next year for him. He's a good player. That's a lot of money. I also am a little bit concerned about how much of a forward he is, or if he is just an out-and-out winger. From what I've seen of him, he seems to be a good out-and-out winger. But we have Dwight McNeil, and that's the only reason I'm worried, because you watch him now trying to play as a forward, and it just doesn't fit. He's not a forward. He's very much a winger. But we'll have a look at Chukwueze now. Supposedly can play attacking midfield and attacking right. Has a lot of positives about him. Don't get me wrong, he's fast. He's dribbling, through balls, finishing. He likes to play it short, cut inside. So he is a very, very good player. 23 years old as well, which is absolutely mental. It means he's still got such a bright, bright future, which is great to see. The only thing that makes me a little bit unnerved is the money, and maybe I guess though it depends, doesn't it? If you pay, if you want big stars, you got to pay big money. The only other thing that puts me off is that Villarreal want to get happy to sort of sell him. I mean, that is big money, and I don't think he's a regular in that Villarreal squad. So that's the only other bit that puts me off. But yeah, it's I've got his injuries up here as well, just so I can see if he is injury prone, because somebody else mentioned that he might have had issues with it. So I'm gonna have a quick look at that. But yeah, it's clear that the club are after. His injury record is actually quite good. The longest he had out was he was ill. He had a groin and a hamstring injury, but he didn't miss a lot of games through that. So that's good to see as well. Don't want to, we don't want players that are going to be injured, sort of thing. When you look on FBref as well, it says he's a similar player to Bukayo Saka, Alan St. Maxim, Martinelli, Akambi, Rafael Lawal, Son Heung-min, Irvin Lozano, Raheem Sterling. He's in a high percentile for non-penalty goals, sort of progressive carries. He looks to be a bit of a buy, so hopefully we can get it done. It can get him. He adds what we need in this squad, which is a bit of pace and somebody who's got a bit of goals up front. Like I said, guys, the only slight issue I have with it is the price. But if we've got the money and he's got a big future, then I guess we are going to have to spend for a somewhat established star. Villarreal are still a respective team. It's not like we've picked them up out of the middle of Brazil and an unknown Brazilian team. It's a respectable team in Europe that will want money. So yeah, keep an eye on that one. But that looks to be one of the forwards Everton are looking to add in the end of this transfer window. Next, we have the news that Everton are set to sign both James Garner and Idrissa Gueye. Fabrizio Romano pretty much gave it his, here we go. He confirmed that the contracts have finally been exchanged with PSG. Garner will cost around 15 million with add-ons, including Man United will also have a buyback clause in the deal. Like I said, that's come from Fabrizio. He said that James Garner has already completed his medical at Everton and he'll sign a 5-year contract with us. Which is quite good. Before we talk about that, there's one more bit of news from Samuel Luckhurst. And this is just about the money for Garner. He said, Everton have had an £8 million bid accepted by Manchester United. The fee could rise to 15. A sell-on clause has been inserted in the deal. Like I said, that's come from Samuel Luckhurst, who is the chief Man United writer for the Manchester Evening News. Going through Garner, a video. Gueye, we know what we're getting with Gueye and Garner. I've done videos for when they're announced, going in their stats a little bit more, so I won't do that for these. Both good players. We know what we're getting with Idrissa, don't we? We know hands down, even now, unless he's dramatically declined, we know what we're getting with him. Garner, a more interesting one. We've got lots of centre mids, but we don't have someone like him that's just going to sit back and spray the ball. That line playmaker. We don't have that. We don't actually have many playmakers. We have a few people who can run with the ball, a lot of dynamic players, but we don't have one quite of his ability. So hopefully that ends up being quite a good buy as well. I think Frank Lampard would like more technical players. He looks a bigger lad than Billy Gilmore, who we were linked with, and people were saying that's why we were linked with Gilmore, because he's that type of player that can pick out passing. He looks a bigger lad than Gilmore. He looks like he might be able to handle the physicality of the Premier League a little bit better. Moving on, we have that Mohamed Kudus is refusing to train with Ajax and wants to leave to join Everton. That's come from Mike Dwyer, I'm going to pronounce that as. There's the source, who is a journalist out in Holland for Telegraph. Interestingly enough, we move a little bit further on. Mike goes on to say that Kudus had agreed personal terms with Everton, but Ajax aren't allowing to let him leave. Kudus is now trying to force a move to Everton by not turning up to training for Ajax. Big one, this, isn't it? I spoke to Juan from We Talk Ajax about Kudus, so you can go check that out if you want to know what he's about. So he's been a bit of a good player. I won't spoil the whole video because you know, just go back and watch it if you want to know more about him. But he said, Juan basically said he's a bit like Iwobi, but he's a lot better close contact when he's pressured and stuff. So it looks really good. The only thing is now, to Anthony leaving, looks like Ajax don't want to get rid of all their forward players. And the big problem is they've already let Anthony go. I think there's a bit of a fear that they might just tell Kudus, no, you stay and end off. We're not going to back down again. The other big problem is that if we get Chukwueze on the loan, we can't get a loan for Kudus. We've used one domestic loan on Cody, one international on Vinagre. We're using another international on Chukwueze. We can't use it for Kudus. We'd still have one available for domestic if Everton do want to use that, or if they want to save it till January, maybe, and see what's needed by then. So we'd have to buy Kudus outright, which I think potentially goes against him as moving as well. I personally don't see this one happening, even if he is sort of his heels in. Unfortunately, I think by the time they change their mind, we'll have already had Chukwueze through the door and saying, no, we don't want to buy you. And Ajax probably don't want to sell him. And then he's going to have a frosty day at work tomorrow morning, isn't he? We also have David Ornstein's reporting that Chelsea value Anthony Gordon as no higher than 40 million. So to have no interest in going beyond that, like I said, that 60 million floating around was too good to be true. The 40 million is a more realistic in my eyes. I know he scored 2 goals, and there'll be people in the comments going, well, he scored the other day. 2 goals in 2 games is fantastic, don't get me wrong. But I think 40 million is a bit more of a fair reflection for Anthony Gordon as a whole. But obviously, transfers and football isn't done by opinions or by websites like Transfer Market. They're done by how much he means to the club. Everton wanted 60 million or more because it was too good to be true, and that's how much we value him as. Chelsea obviously don't. So yeah, it looks like he's staying, and which is a good thing. I put in the post-match reaction to the Leeds Everton game. It's a nice position we find ourselves in where 60 million's too good to be true, so probably sell him for that. But if he stayed, nobody's going to be upset. It's not like an Andre Gomez or a Solomon Rondon where fans predominantly want to see them go out the door. Fans want him to stay. It was just a matter of the price being too good to be true. But if he stays, nobody's now going to go, oh, Gordon, I can't believe he's staying and moan about that. He's a well-liked lad by myself and most of the fan base. So it was a win-win for us, really. We also have from the Daily Mail that Everton are looking at Watford forward João Pedro. I personally would love this one. I think he's got a very, very bright future. He's doing really well in the Championship for Watford. Played the other day, even though he's linked with a move away. Did really well for them. Their most creative player, fantastic player. I like him that much. I know it's not going to happen purely because I like him that much. I can't see us getting João Pedro. It's very rare Everton side players that I really, really want. So I think João Pedro will probably be missed there. And we have the news that Mikhailo Mudryk has rejected Everton's offer and wants to join Arsenal. And this has come from Haratov, who is a journalist, team lead at VBet News, sports photojournalist. Didn't know a lot about Mudryk, and then everyone keeps calling him the Ukrainian Neymar, which is very high praise as well. Yeah, this isn't happening because he prefers Arsenal, but I've heard that Brentford might make a swoop for him. So yeah, Brentford would be an interesting signing for them, taking him off of Arsenal. Like I said, didn't really know of him till today. Watched a couple of those montages on social media. But don't get me wrong, might be the Ukrainian Neymar. I don't know him, but I'd also say that those montages, those compilations that end up on Twitter of a player, it could make Solomon Rondon look like a £60 million player. You got to be a bit careful when watching montages. You know, it's a bit of a sus way to judge people off of a 10-minute compilation clip. But yeah, like I said, it's not going anywhere either. We also have that Ben Bertrand Diaz could move away from Blackburn on a free transfer. Rumoured Everton target Diaz could bide his time to move away from Blackburn in order to secure a free transfer. The Chilean internationals received pre-contract proposals from both Celta Vigo and Nice, who are prepared to wait for the striker's contract to run down. According to the Daily Mail, who claimed Valencia and Villarreal are also interested. Stoke Bertrand Diaz has less than 12 months at Ewood Park. Everton could still scupper interest from overseas by making an offer in the next 24 hours. I don't know why we don't just do what they're doing and wait for his contract to run down and offer him a deal. Out of those 3 clubs, 4 clubs, we are probably with a decent offer. If he wants to stay in England, where his family is, we're a decent offer. So potentially he could stay. You know, if we offer on a free, it costs us nothing but his wages. It'd be really nice. Doesn't upset the financial fair play debacle. And if other clubs are doing it, why aren't we going to do it? So yeah, the one thing I would say is obviously go with a bit of digression. You can get in trouble for sort of tapping up contracts. We also have the Sporting Lisbon are close to signing Everton target offer Melo, and they're ramping up their efforts to sign him from Juventus. Despite reports that Everton open talks with the midfielder, a sticking point with Melo has been his wages. According to a Calcio Mercato, the old lady are now prepared to cover his costs in order to loan him out. Tutor Mercato Web reports that Everton had been looking at him in terms of a long season switch, with a loan fee likely to be required instead of the cover of the 26-year-old's £131,000 a week. But unless the Toffees can agree a sum, the Brazilian international could be off the Sporting. Newcastle were also interested, having shown interest this summer. I don't think that one's going to happen either. I've not seen him linked enough. Some of these players have been linked enough to know they're happening. But if it's the first time they've been linked or second time, you're a bit like, I don't think that one will happen. And then we've got Everton chasing Cody Gakpo. Everton are chasing PSV Eindhoven's Cody Gakpo, according to reports. He's got interest from a number of Premier League clubs this summer, including Nottingham Forest. Of course, they're interested. Manchester United, Leeds United, and Southampton. But the Telegraph reporter Jason Burt says the Blues are now in for the Netherlands international. Would take that with a pinch of salt because Alan Myers then tweeted saying, as far as he's concerned, and he heard Everton aren't in for Gakpo. So take that with a little pinch of salt there. I don't think that is potentially going to happen. I think the links. I trust Alan Myers, to be honest, guys. That's basically what it comes down to. I trust Alan Myers more, and I don't think that's going to happen. And then finally, not that there's been any bad news really per se, but some other good news. There are rumours from Turkey linking Solomon Rondon to Trabzonspor. Obviously, there were reports the other day that Everton have told him your future at the club is sort of up, go find another club. Trabzonspor apparently looking at him, which is good news for Everton fans. Don't get me wrong, he seems like a lovely fellow. He tries hard. I just don't think he's cut out for the Premier League, and I don't think he's got the quality over here. But if he goes to Turkey, he could do quite well. It seems to be a good place to go. Balotelli went last year and did really well, although he's just signed for some Scipion in Denmark, I believe it might be. Dele Alli had a really good first game for Besiktas. Toten looks good over there. It might be the best move for him. There's 3 Everton players that have ended up going over to Turkey potentially. But yeah, wish him all the best if he does leave. Don't forget to like the video, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Comment down below your thoughts on anything I've mentioned today. It's a big buster one, isn't it? Transfer deadline day is tomorrow. It was always going to be a bit of a hectic one today and tomorrow. A lot of news there. Let me know your thoughts on all of it, especially Chukwueze and Garner and Gueye, and a couple of the others chucked in there, João Pedro. Let me know all that good stuff. I look forward to reading it, and I will see you guys very, very soon.